them. Here comes Giuseppe. They make contact. They touch once, twice, 3 times.
Oh, trouble! Oh, no, Rocky into the wall. Big crash front straightaway. Huge crash coming into the triangle. No, Rocky up and into the air.
They're beating and banging. Burn on the bottom. Cosman up top.
Kaufman, I think. No, Broyer by 1/1000th of a second. Joseph, no! At the line, Thunhorse pulls the win out at the stripe.
Oh, he saves it. What's going to happen here?
Here comes the canvas. Get your foot in. He's got it. He's got it.
Canvas is going to win.
The chase for the WINSTEL Cup heads to Dover, as now it comes down to 8 races to determine who can be the best of the best to come away with the 2006 edition of the WINSTEL Cup for WINSTEL competition here for the Gen 4 Challenge. Hello and welcome to FTFGG's coverage of tonight's action here from Dover. My name's Justin Prince. Along some of the moves tonight is Joshua Lee, along with our producer Zach Johnson, as we get all set to start off the chase for the WINSTEL Cup. 8 races to go for the season. In the 2022 calendar year, 10 drivers have a chance to come away with $300 as the champion this season.
And this is a really exciting time, JP, to be starting a brand new chase for the Cup, and especially with these WINSTEL Gen 4s as well. These cars recently getting a new damage model update where it's a little bit more based on the energy in terms of hits. We're hearing there's some new things these drivers are watching with that new damage model. So everything coming to culminate right at the beginning of the main point of the season. This is going to be an exciting one, starting from a track that is very unique in its own right.
It's been a very difficult campaign to get here in the first place, but now the top 10 drivers in the series throughout the whole year get to do battle for the next few weeks. All the way to the end of October, Jose Solis Jr. starts off the chase for the WINSTEL Cup with the most points, 50 and 50. 5,050 to be precise. Zach Campbell 5 points back. Nick Duzette 10 points back with the seeding. Christian Budd in 4th. Dylan Roberts, Ryan Doucette, James Holzer, Gabriel Mauricio, Brandon McKissick, Ali Osman. The 10 drivers who have a chance for the championship, Josh. And of course, with that reset in turn and how tight things are, anything can happen for the chance to come away as a champion.
And it's not going to play out like the modern day NASCAR Cup Series playoffs where you win and you advance to the next round. First of all, no rounds here in the WINSTEL Gen 4 Challenge. You're going all the way to the end of the championship with these same 10 drivers. And name of the game is consistency. You have to be consistent when you're driving in this points format. Jose Solis Jr., who is currently fastest in practice as well, very, very quick car. It needs to be consistent because he's starting at the top. He needs to not crumble all the way down to the bottom as we get started with this final run to the finish.
Keep in mind, when it comes to the driver of the number 11 machine throughout the campaign, 3 total wins, tied for second most with Zach Campbell entering the final 8 races of the season. The most wins coming to Ryan Doucette. Doucette picking up a majority of those during the summer months for WINSTEL Gen 4 Challenge competition. The difficult thing about this format, too, in turn, there's a mixture of different racetracks that the competitors will be facing, Josh. To quickly describe the schedule, you have Dover. Watkins Glen has been placed in as a part of the chase for the WINSTEL Cup in this series. Kansas, Talladega, Atlanta Motor Speedway, Martinsville, Phoenix, the legacy version, of course, and of course, Homestead, Miami Speedway to close things out. It is not an easy series to win in with the talent levels we've seen throughout the campaign, and so many different winners in turn.
With those tracks that you just described as well, JP. There's so many different types of tracks. I mean, from High Banks to Talladega to the winding road of Watkins Glen, and then Martinsville, Phoenix, everything in between, and then finishing off at a half intermediate track of Homestead Miami Speedway, the classic place to crown a NASCAR champion. That, of course, as a Florida native myself, I'm pretty partial to Homestead Miami Speedway, but it just makes sense to crown a champion at Homestead.
The drivers getting themselves ready for qualifying. 5 minutes of solo qualifying, 1 lap up on the board tonight from tonight's 60-lap event from Dover. Qualifying all set to go. Jose Solis Jr. led the way in practice with a 23.464. Alex Kolonix, Nick Doucette, Zach Campbell, James Holzer, the top 5 in final practice. Drivers hitting the racetrack now for the 1 lap of qualifying. And track position we've seen can be critical in this series. It can be difficult to qualify up in the front with this field, especially when you have, say, a Porsche Taycan Esports Super Cup competitor in Zach Campbell in the field.
Campbell hits the track in that number 19. Of course, throwback scheme with Elliott Sadler as well. Crosses the line to begin his flying lap, and take a great look at the Dover Speedway. I mean, it's diving into the corner, and it is diving. You unload the car right downhill into the corner. You can see the uphill right back out of the corner to go kind of into a valley of the back straightaway, and then once again back to turn 3, right up, slamming the asphalt or concrete here at Dover, and then right back up off the corner. Those walls jump out at you at the exit of 2 and the exit of 4. And Zach Campbell putting in a good banker lap to start, 23.532. But already Jose Solis Jr. in the number 11 championship leader when we begin the chase for the WINSTEL Cup. He sits now first, 23.464.
1/1000th of a second quicker than his practice time. That's at the top of the session. Alexander Russell driving the 32 tonight, up to second currently. Christian Budd Campbell currently taking the time to get some practice crashing the car. Nicholas Doucette rounding out the top 5 in the early portions of the session. Amongst some of the drivers who stand out to you, who do you think will be these contenders for this championship, knowing how this season's played out, but also knowing a lot of the experience you've seen, Josh, across the service from many of your chase for the WINSTEL Cup drivers?
I mean, it's easy to go with Jose Solis Jr., right? Because, I mean, comes in as the leader of that chase and has the best opportunity to be consistent and walk away with this championship. I have to go with him as my championship pick, but I think we're going to see a couple of other names start to peek their way through and maybe make a run at that championship. But I think it's hard to go against anybody other than Jose Solis Jr. right now at the top. And then we're still waiting on a couple more of our chase drivers to knock in some times, but you can see by the indicators only chase drivers in that top 4 is Jose Solis Jr. You have to look back to Christian Budd, edge of the top 5, to find the next.
All the chase drivers throughout the night indicated in yellow, by the way. You'll see up on the top ticker as tonight's action progresses here. Followed along with Tyler Head, who starts off his qualifying lap. Ryan Doucette just hitting the racetrack, as well as James Holzer. Bunch of final drivers in this qualifying session will take times. Keep in mind, Tower Head has showcased a bit of speed in the next few weeks or so. When it comes to that number 4, we'll see where the final few drivers in this qualifying session fare out here for the 60-mile race. Tower Head this time around, 23.5. Only good enough for 11th. The focus now goes to 2 drivers, Ryan Doucette, James Holzer, who are on their first and only flyers.
Holzer puts a time up to P6 in the 09. What can the 7 do? As he'll cross the start finish, 23.490. And it will be good enough for 3rd. So that's going to add another chase name up and into the top 5, which Christian Budd was knocked out with that Ryan Doucette time to 3rd. So only 2 chase drivers in the top 5. Kolonix, Lewandowski, and Russell being the chase spoilers in the top 5 in qualifying.
The last few drivers completing their lap times here a minute or so before we hit tonight's starting grid, Josh. And the interesting thing's going to be as well how the drivers fare out with the handling, with the updates to the car, rebuilt from the ground up, the artwork coming into tonight. Many teams putting in work to recreate their paint schemes in turn for this Brand new campaign for the winter time, in the fall time, especially for the championship on the line. You talked about the damage model. That will be a major thing. It's also important to note fuel mileage, a big thing. 38% the fuel cap. That is just 7 gallons of fuel for tonight at Dover.
That's going to be the most interesting part of this race, JP, is how those drivers are going to navigate that fuel window, because we're not really going to be talking about tires that much. Yes, Dover is a track that eats those tires up, but we're not going to talk about that much with that fuel window. It's not going to be the decision of pitting when those tires wear off. It's going to be you're going to be forced to pit once that fuel runs out, which we're expecting about a 2-stop strategy. Some people might try and go for 1 stop, but it's going to be close, and the driver that is going to end up with the best strategy ultimately is going to be the one to win this race.
The pit boxes are ready. The drivers get themselves all set to go themselves as it's time to set things up for the Dover 400 here on FTF.GG. Qualifying starts off strong for the number 11, Jose Solis Jr. He keeps up the consistency from practice to start on the front row. Alex Collins starts in second with Ryan Doucette and Thomas Lewandowski the top 4. And rounding out your top 3 rows, Alex Russell will start alongside Christian Budd the third of your chase drivers on the grid, Josh.
Starting row 4 will be James Holzer to the inside. Zach Campbell will start on the outside as number 19 Dodge. Row 5 sees Anthony Krobach and Nicholas Doucette on that 5th row, rounding out your top 10. And then it's the Ford of Philip Snipes to the inside of Dylan Roberts, rounding out the top 12.
Towerhead, 13th position to start things off. Gabriel Mauricio amongst the deepest far back chase drivers. Parker Alexander starts in 15th in the Blue Deuce. Ali Osman amongst the last drivers. In fact, the last chase driver on the grid in 16th tonight in the 25. While Alex Bates and Timothy Latham, the top 9 rows.
Lilac Zier is going to start to the inside of row 10 with Brendan McGee to the outside, rounding out the top 20. Matt Skipper and Sean Pellig going to be on the 11th row on the grid, and rounding out your field in the 12th row to the inside will be Brandon Cruz, Monsivice, and it looks like Ken Huff and Hayden Repas not taking a time in qualifying. They'll start 24th and 25th on the grid.
That's a look top to bottom at your running order here tonight. Here for the WINSTEL Gen 4 Challenge to start off the fall in the chase for the WINSTEL Cup. 60 miles, 60 laps at the Monster Mile. Field limit, as mentioned, 38% tonight. Your keys to victory when it comes to the Monster Mile, Josh.
Normally it'd be save the tires, but tonight it's go as hard as you can, because I think the max that these drivers are going to get out of a single tank of fuel only going to be around 25 laps. So you can kind of use up well, would be the Goodyear tires in this time period, but general tires on these cars in the iRacing service. Use them up as much as you want, because ultimately you're gonna have to pit once that fuel tank runs empty, and it's not a lot of time in a small stint. So use the tires up as much as you want. Try and get as many track positions as you can. Cautions are not guaranteed, so try and get as much as you can out of these cars for all the 60 laps we have in this race.
Jose Solis Jr. in control of the field on the inside row. Colonix on the outside to begin things off. And it has been a fun time in the WINSTEL Gen 4 Challenge so far. A majority of your race winners making the chase grid for a chance for $300. Solis Jr., the top driver in terms of points throughout the year, leads them to start the chase for the WINSTEL Cup. We're green from Dover. Alex Colonix with the better launch on the outside takes the race lead away from Jose Solis Jr. The 11 shuffle back to second to start off the race.
That was a great move from the 45 to get out in front quick. First side-by-side is going to be between Campbell and Doucette, a little bit further back from this now lead group that has single-filed themselves out, but right back to the front straightaway. Got to be careful on the exit of both turn 2 and turn 4, especially once those tires start to wear off. The car is only going to want to understeer. It's going to be a magnet to that outside wall on the exit of these corners. You got to be careful. Most drivers will take these corners like two distinct corners, almost like a Darlington or like an Indianapolis. They'll kind of treat turns 1 and 3 as their own apex and treat turns 2 and 4 as their own apex to get back off of the corner.
Take a look at some of the battles starting to form up. Dylan Roberts picking up a few spots. Nicholas Doucette 3 spots in the opening lap so far. And the outside line working for some of these moves in terms of the starting positions. But now it's the tough thing, getting the passes done with the single file formation.
That's going to be the challenging part of this track. It's not known as a multi-groove racetrack. It's really known as a train down on the bottom of the racetrack, shades of old Bristol. So now the 09 stuck on the outside. Going to be really interesting to see how Holzer is able to use that outside line to his advantage. And you can see he gets very loose off the exit of turn 2, but he uses that, tries to get to the inside now of Anthony Krobach for the P9 spot.
Holzer trying to make the bottom work, bobbles around on the dip out of turn 4, up the road for the race lead. So is Junior to the inside of Konix, takes it back to take the point.
Great move for Jose Salas Jr. Now Kolonix back to square one where he began this race in P2. Off of turn 4. Now Jose Salas Jr. all he wants to do is look in his rearview mirror and see that number 45 get smaller and smaller. But already Kolonix is starting to set up for another move. Back to turn 1, and the 45 got a great bit of momentum in the middle of that corner. Off the exit, not able to do much about it as the 21 on Lewandowski gets loose behind.
Thomas Lewandowski able to hold on to the Wood Brothers racing machine right in front of Christian Budd. Budd, though, losing the bottom to Zach Campbell. Campbell starting off in 8th position, not able to make the move yet as Nicholas Doucette joins the line as well. And right now you see that rear end really drifting up for Campbell in particular loose as that sets up the 24.
That was a big drift through turns 1 and 2. Now the 24 going to set up for a perfect move to the inside. Remember, both of these drivers being in that chase. Same thing with Christian Budd in the 17 up the road. It's important for these chase drivers to race around each other. This is how they are going to earn points. Yes, they can earn points by passing non-chase drivers, but if you're passing a chase driver, you're not only gaining points, you're also making sure that your fellow chase competitor is losing points. I think the big thing I'm taking out of this battle here, JP, is that the 24 and Nicholas Doucette was not able to complete that pass on the 19, even though Campbell full-on drifted through turns 1 and 2. Now he has to look back to the inside in 1 and gets loose, almost sliding up the racetrack as Doucette.
Nicholas Doucette having to back out of it, getting a bit tight, trying to take the shallow entry. That's that discussion point that comes into play, trying to make passes. Such a rhythm track here. You see from on top of the roof of the 24 just how close they're getting to the safer barrier along the front straightaway as well here. Currently, Nicholas Doucette leading the back end of a 7-car train that has broken away from Alexander Russell by about 2 seconds. Speaking of Russell, Holzer trying to make the pass on him.
Inside for the 09, and the 32 sits on the outside, and Russell doing a good job at using that outside line. And the 8, Dylan Roberts, having to back out of that one. I was expecting him to try and make that move, but not going to try and do it on that tied number 32. They stay in line, and now you can see, JP, they're starting to get closer to that outside wall off of 2 and 4. I don't think it's going to be long until we see somebody trying to rub some paint on it.
Yeah, and you already see as well, Dylan Roberts having to yeehaw it through the corner. Checking up the pack a little bit in turn. And that's the major thing. WINSTEL, in a lot of cases, has trended loose in terms of their setup build movements throughout the campaign. For the race lead, Solis Jr. loses the bottom. Kolonix looking to rip it back side by side down the front stretch. Kolonix, one of the most improved drivers from the summer, charged up to 15th place at the end of the season for the summertime overall. He takes the point. That opens up the door for Ryan Doucette for second.
And Doucette gonna try and make quick work of Jose Salas Jr. in the 11. Look at that number 45, a Colonix trying to pull away. They were side by side behind. Now top 5 gonna single file themselves out. Bud tries to look to the inside of the 21. Lewandowski does not have enough momentum to do so in turn 1. Now off of 2 they go, and Colonix with a great lead now, but the 7 is right on his back bumper. First time we're gonna see Ryan Doucette try and go for the lead after starting P3.
Ryan Doucette, 4 victories on the campaign, the series leader coming into Dover. Not able to take the poke yet on Colonix. Colonix trying to park the bus a bit as the 11 has started to really fall off by 3/10 last time by. And that's the tough thing now. How do you play this if you're Colonix defensively as he tries to hug the bottom here? And there goes that answer, losing the bottom into 1.
There goes Ryan Doucette looking for the race lead. He'll use the inside line and ton of wheel work, and he's going to get loose. He almost lost the car off the exit of turn number 2. That opens the door again for Alex Colonix. He'll have the edge going through the apex of turns 3 and 4. Can he get the lead? Another big moment from the 7. The 45 almost knocks the wall down as they head back to turn 1.
Colonix not backing down. Quicker in the throttle on the apex. Doucette quicker in the throttle on the exit. Still to the quarter panel is Ryan Doucette. Ryan Doucette wanting those bonus points and wanting the point. Coming towards the end of the first window on the fuel. Doucette, this time by the stripe, not able to get the lead lap. Colonix does not want to give this up with how his season's been and how close he's been a couple times. He loses the lead this time, however, to Doucette down the back.
Back to the inside for the 7. He'll complete it that time, but look at Colonix right to the back bumper of the 7. He tried to go for a crossover, but Doucette doing a perfect job at holding that inside line and protecting that move from the 45. Remember, Colonix is not a chase driver. He is fighting with chase drivers right now at the front. Everybody in this top 4 group is chase drivers except for Alex Colonix. Jose Salas Jr. and Christian Budd are in a decent battle for 3rd right now. 2 fellow chase contenders as they try and reach this lead group again.
And the difficult parts now coming into play potentially, Josh. How do you enter this pit lane? Because it can be difficult. Trouble back straight away. It's Matt Skipper. Skipper to the inside wall. No caution. We stay green.
Skipper down to the inside, wondering what happened to that forward fusion of Skipper in the number 16, but he will go 1 lap down and he will get onto that pit road. Or no, he's going to stay on the racetrack here. Doesn't look like any damage to the 16.
Trouble pit lane, crash on the pit entry. The 99 of Philip Snipes has done a 360 full scope. He's avoided damage, however, just avoiding the water barrels.
Philip Snipes and Anthony Krobach, the first 2 to the pit lane. Is this going to bring the rest of the field down? Doucette passes the pit lane, does not come in. It doesn't look like anybody else is going to come in just yet. Going to run their fuel tanks a little bit more as we see a big moment on the outside line from the 16.
And Matt Skipper has to come in soon. That thing's starting to really bottom out in the corners, you see. He does have a fair bit of damage, and we talked about the adjustments to the new damage model based more on the energy, building up over time, and that thing is bottoming out on the left part of the splitter in the valence. Coming into the pit lane comes Skipper.
So the 16 pits, wondering if with that spin and with all of those close moments, if the 16 is starting to face a little bit of tire wear with those general tires. But Doucette, race leader, still passing the entrance to the pit lane. He is not pitting yet. Can they make it to halfway here, JP, as the 2 is wildly damaged on the inside?
See that on the right front fender. Parker Alexander was running mid-pack. It's been an adventurous season for the Blue Deuce, to say the very least. So a pit stop before halfway for Alexander. 35 to go this time around. Ryan Doucette continuing to dictate the pace and really wheeling in and nearly lost it a couple times. Doucette dancing on the very edge to keep the pace up.
We're only 5 laps away now from halfway. Does Doucette try and stretch it? We haven't had any caution, so he hasn't had any opportunity to fuel save, and he's been up at the front for pretty much this entire race at this point. I don't know if he saved any or if he even needed to save any. If they make it to halfway, we know at least with no cautions, they'll be able to make it all the way to the checkered flag. I'm wondering if Doucette's trying to do that here, but if not, he's going to have to pit soon, and then that's going to put him on a cycle that's only going to have him pit for the final time inside of 10 to go.
And keep in mind, most of the season, the races have been two stoppers. The short tracks, it's been hard to get green flag stops, to say the least. This would be one of the first times on the short tracks. See, for example, though, some of the shuffling for Zach Campbell. He had been charging hard and closed in within 2 seconds. He has fallen off. He is indicating he needs to pit this time. More smoke coming up. Campbell trying to get to the inside.
Oh, and Zach Campbell on the bottom.
Nearly drifting it around. Can he get in? Yes.
You got it.
Man, these pit entries today having a wild. Pit stops coming up right towards the halfway point. It's close. Ryan Doucette coming in. Colonix can stretch it, and Doucette, can he get in with the speeding? No. Ryan Doucette has sped at the line.
Did he get busted for it, or did he slow down enough?
Yes.
The timing line was good.
The black flag is displayed in sim. The 7 has received a speeding penalty on pit entry. The speed limit 35 miles per hour. He was in the 40s and 50s at the cone.
Colonix pits now. That'll leave Christian Budd on the racetrack. Budd is going to cross the line to go over halfway. I think the drivers that are pitting now might be able to stretch it all the way to the end and be good. Salas Jr. also stays out. James Holzer still yet to pit, and the rest of the top 5. One driver calling a pit in now. Doesn't look like it's Christian Budd in the 17 as he comes down in now. He's going to miss pit entry. The 17 misses the entry.
Christian Budd not having a good pit stop sequence, losing lots of ground to James Holzer. Solis Jr. currently the race leader. Gabriel Mauricio gaining lots of ground with this strategy currently. The 07, 09 should say, indicated a pit stop this time. Christian Budd wanting to come in. How will they fare out this time? Holzer spins it. Holzer crashes out the pit barrels. Holzer has crashed on the apron. Sean Pellick avoids him. Holzer stuck across the entry of the pit lane as Alex Bates misses the entry. Chaos abound as Holzer loses tons of ground on his spin.
Holzer's wheel is almost coming off. It looks like that. Yeah, you can see that camber is not how it was when he began that run. And that new damage model coming into play for the 09, knocking that tire almost clean off. But Alexander Russell will take the lead. Lilac Zier still also not pitting yet. Brandon Cruz, Monsivais stays out. Everybody else back from there. Jose Salas Jr., the net race leader at this current moment. Olive still yet to pit.
Pit indication this time for Monsivais, as there's Alexander Russell also coming in. So this pit window coming to a close, a bit of a lockup. By the way, the reason for the test cars is, again, the updates to the artwork to the cars. Some of the paint schemes having to be reworked. Those not able to do so in time, electing to take the old NASCAR video game route with the test cars. 2 of them coming in. On some ice, the 3rd of those coming in. But the interesting thing is how the strategies have played out. Looking to cycle to the net race lead and the overall lead. This time around, Nicholas Doucette has jumped in front of the 45 of Colonix through the pit lane.
Alex Colonix is still close. That did not make that big of a gap, as the gap is only about 0.6 between the 24 and the 45. Both of them pitting relatively the same time, albeit Colonix about a lap sooner than Nicholas Doucette, or Nicholas Doucette about a lap sooner than Alex Colonix. Lap fresher tires on the 45 is exactly what I'm trying to say.
To the inside, Nicholas Doucette goes to get around lap traffic. That's the fellow Hendrick Motorsports machine of Alex Bates. So this cycle has come to a close, a one-stopper race. And Alex Kolonix, who has led 11 laps, trying to close back on in. Traffic to get in between them, though. Monts of ice. Currently the wedge between them elects to back out. Of note, Jose Salas Jr. took 2 tires, as well as Brendan McGee this pit stop cycle. They are up to 3rd and 5th respectively, but they are 4 seconds back from the rest of the pack.
His lead group is completely broken up. I mean, Salas Jr. and Campbell can battle alone for right now, but then you go back and you can see Lewandowski getting by Krobach, Christian Budd also getting around there. So the group we're watching right here. And out of the top 5 right now, only 3 of them being those chase drivers, and they're pretty split as of right now as well, with Salas Jr. and Campbell being about 4 seconds behind the top 2, which only one of them right now is a chase driver.
When you compare how the chase / postseason / playoff / whatever you may call it comes into play for the real world, there has been trouble for those competing for the title. Those in this race with the troubles, Ryan Doucette, James Holzer, 22nd for Ryan Doucette. James Holzer out of the race currently. It's your only DNF of note. Most of the others keeping it clean. Dylan Roberts back in 15th, trying to gain a spot for 6th, Christian Budd. As you see the 89 of Hayden Repa's having to come back into the pit lane. They were the first one to come in. They can't make it to the end. Just about everybody else can make it on the gas. But the 24 and 45, this could be interesting. A potential chase buster in Kolonix. Nicholas Doucette looking to try and pick up a victory with 20 to go.
Back into turn 1 for this group. And Kolonix is not letting that 24 go. Right on the back bumper. And remember, the 99 spun entry to the pit lane. He gets it whipped back around. That's Philip Snipes, who is now going to go 1 lap down as he enters the pit lane for the 2nd time tonight. But now Kolonix trying to look for the race lead in 1. Able to block off the move as the 24 Doucette.
Kolonix all over the rear spoiler of Nicholas Doucette. Takes a peek to the inside. Doucette slams the door shut underneath the bridge into turn 3. These two have a 4-second cushion. Kolonix is quicker on the 1 lap fresher tires, though. Just can't get the run as he scrapes the wall.
Back through 1 and 2 for your top leaders as Jose Salas Jr. is closing in, albeit a little bit. Gap is down to about 3.6 from about 4 seconds, but he's not gaining back that much time as the 45 to the inside almost slides up to hit the 24. Off the exit of turn 4, side by side for the race lead to the stripe, and the 45 of Kolonix has to give up the space.
And this seems to be the tough balancing act. Kolonix is quicker, but can't get the run around Nicholas Doucette. Trying to narrow peek to the inside. Nicholas Doucette lets him have it. This time Kolonix plants around the seam a little bit better for the dip out of 4. Side by side, Doucette with the pole. Lap traffic is ahead, however. Matt Skipper, also traffic right behind. Bates riding along as Kolonix gets a better 1 and 2. Nearly clears, can't do it as Skipper moves out of the way.
He was inches away from clearing the 24, but the 16 slow on the bottom. He lets these leaders go on by. The 24 getting pushed up wide out of 4, and that's going to be enough for the 45 of Kolonix to grab that spot. The 5 and the 32, 2 drivers that are now 1 lap down apiece, are now going to be influencing this lead battle as the 24 loses a ton of ground now to the 45. Kolonix in clean air grabbing a good lead.
Alexander Russell not pushing the issue, though, with 14 to go this time. Now he pushes the issue towards the inside of the 24. And this may be a cork in the bottle for Nicholas Doucette. That's the tough thing. Do you race the lead lap cars here to get the lap back? Russell's doing it.
It might be a losing battle with the speed the 45 of Alex Kolonix has, and the 32 does have about 5 lap fresher tires than Alex Kolonix, but I just don't think it's going to be a battle that the 32 can win, especially because he's still trying to get by the 24, who is also still trying to catch back up to the 45 in front.
Russell checking up. Nicholas Doucette starting to lose the rear end a bit. Bates also having to check up. Do you see the pit stop as well? Crowback. Some of the others not able to make it. He was on 26 laps on the strategy. Parker Alexander 22. And now this is becoming a cork in the bottle situation. 3 lap cars. These are all 1 lap down drivers fighting for the lucky dog. Are trying to go around the second place car. Russell forces the issue on the battle for second. On the second place car, should say. Nicholas Doucette losing the top groove.
This is just going to force Colonix to keep pulling away. The 24 Doucette going to lose touch of that lead. And now he's going to let not 1, maybe 2 lapped cars go by. He fights back on the inside in that number 24 Chevy Monte Carlo. But he's got the 5 to the outside trying to power his way around. The 20 behind trying to get by as well. The 24 has to let the 5 by. But now here comes Doucette trying to look back to the bottom again on Alex Bates. And remember, the only driver he's racing is the 45 of Alex Colonix, who is long gone, 1 second away in the race lead.
Lap traffic giveth, lap traffic taketh away. The difference, Colonix letting by the 32 on 5 lap pressure tires. Just drives on away, and that only cost him a 10th or so. That major difference may be the race decider with 9 laps to go, 8 tenths the difference. Keep in mind, battles are picking up for 7th and 9th respectively. Mauricio trying to pick up some points, trying to keep up with Zach Campbell. Lewandowski between them. Sean Palagoso trying to hold off Latham and another chase driver, Ali Hausman. A couple battles forming up on the racetrack.
With only 9 laps to go, I'm starting to wonder if some drivers can't make it to the end. I think all the drivers that pitted past halfway, they're fine. We know they can make it, but we had a couple of drivers that pitted right before halfway, and it might be close on their fuel window. We know they can make it all the way, but do they have to save? And the 21 looks to the inside of the 19, loose off a 2.
3 wide out of turn 2 is not the best sign at Dover. But Lewandowski opening up the door as a result of the lap traffic. Campbell, all sorts of loose as Mauricio, with a chance to jump by the 19 for valuable points, gets it.
Now that puts Campbell to the back end of this group, which is not good for him when it comes to the chase. Of course, the start of this chase campaign for Zach Campbell. He needs to try and get by these cars in front, but he's loose again. Everybody drifting on the concrete at Dover through 3 and 4.
Lewandowski trying to park the bus, has the spotting help of Marcus Lindsay tonight. See for the back end of Mauricio. Zach Campbell, his rear tires are gone. 5 laps to go. Campbell, who went for an undercut call, not having it work out tonight here at Dover. Mauricio looking to cross up the 21 for a top 5 spot. 5 laps to go.
21 fighting the 31 as the 4 of Tyler Head also able to get by Zach Campbell behind, pushing Campbell to 8th. The 4 goes to 7th as we watch the battle for 5th with the number 21 Thomas Lewandowski and the 6 of Gabriel Mauricio. And off of turn number 4, time running out for this battle, and this is going to be an important one. Can Mauricio grab a top 5 in the number 31? He's only got the number 21 in front to deal with.
Mauricio just 2 top 5 so far in this campaign. Not even a crack yet on Lewandowski, near even tires. 1 lap the difference between them. Coming down to 3 to go. Lewandowski getting a little bit wiggly though. Lewandowski in the wall. Lewandowski's in the wall. Mauricio jumps up to the top 5.
That is exactly what the 31 wanted and needed there in that battle. The 21 only made a very, very small mistake and ended up hitting the wall off of turn number 4. And unfortunately, possibly something with this new damage model just sucked him into the wall, and he rode it all the way down the front stretch.
Coming up to the final time around. Under 2 laps to go from Dover, Alex Colonix, looking for win number 1 of the season. The Betty Enterprises machine has shown plenty of improvements. From the spring to the summer, the white flag is out. Final time around at Dover.
What a race for Alex Kolnick. Started outside of the front row and he fell back a little bit to start, but then did his pit stop perfect, JP, and that's exactly what set him up for this run to the finish.
The most improved driver from the summertime carries it into the chase for the WINSTEL Cup. Alex Kolnick starts the fall with a win at Dover. Nicholas Doucette, the highest running chase driver in second. Jose Solis Jr. got within 2 seconds, but fell back. Still holding on to third. Christian Budd, Gabriel Mauricio, the top 5, as the rest of the drivers finished the lead lap. First win of the campaign for the 45 machine, and he does it with dominating pace, leading the most laps tonight with 27.
He did exactly what he needed to do tonight, and it had the car to beat and then let everybody else do their thing at the start. He got that lead, and then once those pit stops came and once he was able to get back around Nicholas Doucette in the 24, all the 45 needed was a little bit of clean air to pull away.
Celebration is on for Alex Kolnick, and a well-deserved burnout here in the 45. The Charger able to charge forward to victory lane here tonight. The difference, about 0.8 of a second for tonight's finishing run. Let's take a quick look towards the unofficial race results for tonight. Nick Doucette finishes in second. Jose Solis Jr. in third. Christian Budd, Gabriel Mauricio at the top 5. 4 of the top 5 in the chase. Lewandowski, the second running best non-chase driver, in 6th. Tyler Head finishes in 7th. Zach Campbell, Sean Pellick, Timothy Latham, your top 10.
Finishing P11 tonight will be Ali Osman, another chase driver. Brennan McGee ends up P12. Lilac Zier 13th. Dylan Roberts 14th with Alex Russell to round out the top 15. Alexander Bates in 16th. Brandon Cruz, Months of Ice 17th. Ryan Doucette, not the night that he was looking for to start his chase run, in 18th. Anthony Krobach and Philip Snipes, the top 20.
21st to Hayden Repas, then it's Matt Skipper, who had some troubles at the very end of the race, still was able to take the checker flag 6 laps down. Ken Huff, 7 laps down in 23rd. Parker Alexander and James Holzer, your 2 DNFs on the night. Post-race coverage coming up in just a few moments. You're watching FTF.GG for coverage of the WINSTEL Gen 4 Challenge from Dover. Welcome back from Dover for tonight's coverage of the WINSTEL Gen 4 Challenge here on FTF.GG. Justin Prince, Joshua Lee with you, along with the producer Zach Johnson, as it's time to hear what the drivers have to say after Alex Kollinick broke through to pick up victory number 1 in the WINSTEL Gen 4 Challenge. Alex, you showed great improvement in the summertime. You break through for the victory tonight at Dover. How are you feeling for win number 1 of the season?
A bit unexpected. I was surprised from qualifying, and I was surprised from the race pace. This is not one of my favorite racetracks, but by gosh, am I happy to get the win here.
Talk us through that fierce battle for the race win tonight, because you had a couple of them, should say, with Jose Solis Jr. and Nicholas Doucette. Talk us through those fights that set you up to pull away for the end.
I mean, the biggest part with trying to make moves here at Dover is trying to manage your corner exit. This car get really, really loose on throttle as you come off the banking, and so a couple times underneath those guys, you could see me get loose. It was very hard to maintain it on the bottom, so really it was just a matter of waiting for them to wear their tires off before you could make the move, and that was the one thing I seem to have, me and Ryan Doucette, before he got the penalty, seemed to have a good handle of over the field, so I guess that was my advantage tonight.
The main question I think some may have is the improvement you showcased this summer, because you started off in the springtime a little bit on the rough side, but in the summer improved to top 10, if not top 5 pace. What was that major difference maker in terms of the improvement we've seen from spring to summer and now into the fall?
I think the major difference maker for me was more recently joining up with a team in Premier Racing setups and the guys over there, really learning more in depth about, you know, the race cars, how setups are built, and kind of understanding different ways to drive that really seemed to help me out tonight, as it was a whole different style I was trying in the car, and it seemed to be working out for me. So I really got to thank the guys over there, primarily, you know, Jake Matheson, Andrew Navarro, and Donald J, the guy who runs the whole thing. Those guys are a big help over there. But then also at the same time, you know, it's a matter of the guys here at WINSTEL. You know, they make some really good setups that kind of drive pretty consistently across different kinds of tracks. You know, the style's all the same, so it's really a matter of refining how to drive those cars, and so that was a big help in itself, just getting the laps in. So.
Well, Alex, congratulations on bringing the Petty number 45 to victory lane tonight, your first victory of the season.
Yep, thank you, and thank you to Dad for paying for it all. Appreciate it, and wouldn't be here without it.
Alex Kollinick coming away with the victory tonight. Second spot, the highest running chase driver, Nick Doucette, is with Joshua Lee.
Well, Nick, it wasn't enough to get the win in the end, but you did have a little bit of running at the front there. How fast was that car? Do you think with that clean air, if the 45 wouldn't have gotten past you, you wouldn't have been in victory lane?
Well, I really don't think that I would have ever made it to victory lane tonight. That 45 ran me down. He was faster than me the whole race, and he seemed to be able to get back to the throttle better than I could. If even just the thought of me hitting the gas would make the rear end slide in the corners, and I think I pitted a lap or two earlier than he did, so those 1 or 2 lap older tires that I had made the difference that you saw on the racetrack. But what a race, though. I mean, I'll tell you guys something. I ran my real life race car today through a heat warning and high humidity, and I sweat more doing this race than I did in my real car today. It was what a race. Everyone was sliding around. There had to have been a battle all over the racetrack. It was a well built setup and a really good race.
And a second place for you. And tonight, with the strategy, we were thinking it might have been a 2-stop. What were you seeing when you first got in the car? And did you think you would make it past halfway and just be able to make it a 1-stop? Or were you planning on a 2-stop like we had originally thought?
Well, to be honest, I really wasn't sure until about lap 15 in the race what I was going to do. I couldn't remember when we tested if we had enough gas to make it to lap 30 or not. But I knew that if I tried to do a 2-stopper, I would never be able to make the time back. So I knew I had to save the tires to make it a 1-stopper. Then the question was to take 2 or 4, because sometimes 2 tires does make the car drive a little better. But in this case, I'm pretty sure 4 was the way to go.
Watkins Glen on the horizon. Equally challenging track, just in a bit of a different way. Can you put the number 24 on the podium once again?
Well, I'm sure gonna try my best. Road courses aren't what I'm best at. Especially like a stock car. Putting that on a road course, I'm no good. But I got to do the best I can here to stay in this championship battle. It just started, but we got 8 weeks, and it's a really tough competition we have here. And I don't even think I finished on the podium at all through our summer season. So just to be back up here talking to you guys is great. It's good to see you again.
Great job tonight, Nick. Congratulations on your second place finish.
Thank you.
Great to hear if the driver, number 24, Nicholas Doucette. He grabs second place, and then JP, looks like we'll be speaking with the number 11, Jose Salas Jr.
Jose Salas Jr. indeed coming away with the top 3 tonight. Started off in the pole, started off strong, but talk us through the battles that you've had to have throughout the night. It seemed you had fierce battle to start, of course, with Alex Kolonix to begin the race, 10 laps led in the midst of the fight.
Yeah, start the race off. I wanted to try and get the lead early to get the clean track, so I just run my pace. But when I got to the lead, I just kind of killed my tires. So after I passed him, he was able to pass me pretty quickly, and then Ryan came up and just passed me even quicker because he had better tires, and then I was just kind of hang on to the end of that first run.
How difficult was it with the tire management throughout the night tonight in turn? Because it seemed a lot of drivers were four-wheel drifting about 45 degrees in a couple cases.
Yeah, the tire wear was pretty hard to manage tonight. It was pretty easy to just kill the right rear if you just slid it because the setup was really loose on exit. So just managing that was easily the toughest part of the race.
So Watkins Glen next on the schedule. How are you feeling about your road course skills? Of course, you came in first in the standings. How do you feel about Watkins Glen to try and keep things up in the points with a solid run tonight?
I think I definitely finished pretty well Watkins Glen, like top 5. I remember at Sonoma I finished pretty decent, but I don't know if I can compete for a win, but definitely for a top 5.
Well, Jose, congratulations on the podium once again. Another top 5 for you on the campaign.
Thank you.
Jose Salas Jr., his 8th top 5 this season. Like to thank him, Nicholas Doucette, Alex Kolonix, for taking the time to speak with us during post-race coverage here on FDF.GG. Josh, an exciting race tonight. First-time winner. And the Monster Mile had a fully green race. Your thoughts on tonight?
It was a great one. And I mean, we saw strategy. We thought originally 2-stop strategy was kind of the way everyone was going to go. Then everyone made it to halfway. Everybody started pitting at halfway, and we only ended up with the 1-stop race. And I think that in turn led to a lot of drivers using up their tires a little bit more than they thought they would. And then everybody just started sliding closer to the end of the first run and close to the end of the race as well. And what a run by Alex Kolonix to put that number 45 into victory circle for, again, the first time.
The next race on the schedule for this series is at the Glen, and that will be the intriguing thing. At Watkins Glen International, race 2 of the chase is next Sunday. Earlier start time. Keep in mind it's 7:30 p.m. Eastern time here on FDF.GG. And Josh, we know Zach Campbell's quick on the road courses. He's been challenged, though, in the past couple attempts in terms of some of the challenges on the courses. In fact, it was near bumper to bumper when we've seen the last road course event.
It's tough to go with anybody other than Zach Campbell, but you got to watch those chase drivers. They've got a little bit of momentum now beginning this chase run. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of those drivers put in the lap times, put in the hours of practice to try and best Zach Campbell and get some good points on the board for them in their run to the championship.
With that, it's time to say goodbye. We'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's action here on FDF.GG. From my co-announcer Joshua Lee, for Zach Johnson, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your evening. You've been watching the WINSTEL Gen 4 Challenge. Congratulations to Alex Kolonix, your winner from the Monster Mile.